Hi there. In this lesson, we're going to look at a few things that were not covered in the last two lessons and also go over some of the solutions to the exercise in the book. Now, when you come to these, don't just copy them from me, try them yourself or watch me doing the exercises in the book or certainly the questions and then try them yourself. So in the front screen here, I've got different examples of where quadratics are used in real life. You can see a torch, a satellite dish, also in bridges they're used, suspension bridges, and really bouncing balls or throwing something into the air, gravity pulls it back down a symmetrical shape which creates a parabola. Now, looking at the exercise in the book, if we look at this one over here, for example, instead of just sketching the function out, it also asks for these extra things, roots and the equation of the axis of symmetry, and that's what I'm going to concentrate before going over to some of the answers to this exercise. So when we looked at this kind of screen before and we drew our parabola, the roots, what it's really asking for is where the graph cuts the x-axis. You can see them here in the yellow. So if we're asked for what the roots are of this, the roots are these parts here. So if that part there was, say, 2, then the roots could be classed as 2, 0. And if this was minus 2, it would be minus 2, 0. So it's just a coordinate they're looking for where the graph cuts the x-axis. There's also what's called an axis of symmetry. That's the line straight up and down where there is a vertical axis of symmetry. These vertical lines were covered in the straight line topic, but they're called x equals. That's the equation of these lines. Now, depending on where the middle point is, it'll be the x value will vary. So in this case, the x coordinate is 0 here because it's cutting the y-axis. But so let's say it was over here, for example, the axis of symmetry or the symmetry line might be called x equals 1. If it was back here, it might be called x equals minus 2. So this number varies depending on where that coordinate is and the x value of that coordinate. Right, let's look at some examples from the exercise. So the first question in the exercise says, draw this out, f of x equals x squared plus 3. Also gives you this information here. That's basically saying inputs need to go from negative 2 to positive 2, all the numbers in between. So firstly, what you want to do is similar to the video lesson. You can do them in any order. You can go from 2 to minus 2 or minus 2 up to positive 2. I'm going to start at 2. You're going to square the 2 and then add on 3. Make sure you do the square part first. That's 4 plus 3 is 7, and then write it as a coordinate. The input's 2, which is your x, and the output is 7, which is really your y coordinate. Same with the 1, and same with the 0. And then you carry on. Just remember 0 squared is 0 with your negative. Now be careful with your negative. When you do negative 1 squared, you get positive 1, add on the 3, and you get 4. And finish off with your minus 2. So you can see here, I went from 2 to minus 2 with all the numbers in between. I've then went over to my grid. Now I haven't put the numbers in, you could put the numbers in, and I've drawn it out. Now in this case, if you're writing axis of symmetry, you would draw it in, it would be a line straight up and down, and it would be, again, x equals 0. In this case as well, there is no roots. It doesn't cross x-axis at all, so you can just write there is no roots. Okay, if we look at question 2, f of x equals x squared minus 3x, and I think it goes from minus 3. We'll have a look. So firstly, let's look at minus 3. Now, this was different here because you've got two x values. You've got an x value here, which you need to put minus 3 in, and you also have to put a minus 3 in here. Now, this makes it a wee bit difficult in terms of negative numbers, so you've got to be careful. So let's have a look at it. Negative 3 squared is 9. Take away, and then do 3 times minus 3, which is minus 9. So you end up with 9, take away minus 9. Now that becomes a plus, and you end up with 18. But the same idea with the negative 2, and again, make sure you write it out like this, it just makes it much easier. Negative 2 squared, that'll be 4. Take away, and then I work out this bit. 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. So you get 4, take away minus 6. Again, easier to write that first and then do it step by step. So 4 add 6 makes 10. And the last negative one is a negative 1. So negative 1 squared, positive 1. Then do this bit, that comes to minus 3. So you're doing 1 take away minus 3, which is 1 plus 3, which gives you the 4. Now, once you get to 0, it's quite easy. I suppose the squared looks a wee bit funny there. I don't know what's happened to the computer, but that's a squared. So 0, 1, 2, and 3, a wee bit easier to do. And then finish it off by drawing it. Okay, so I've drawn it here. I've put in the roots there. So that root would be at 0, 0, and this one would be at 3, 0. And the axis of symmetry, you can see, is going straight up and down there in the middle. In this case, it would be 1.5, right in between the 0 and the 3. So the axis of symmetry lines always be between the two roots, always right in the middle. Okay, skipping on to 4a. If we look at 4a, we've got x squared minus 4x. So again, x values are going into both parts here. There's only one negative number, the rest are positive. So let's have a look at how that works out. I've started at the 5 this time. You could start at the minus 1 if you wanted. But 5 squared, take away 4 times 5, that's 25, take away 20, just 5, and then write your coordinate. I'll skip all the way down to the negatives because these are not too bad here. And then we'll look at what happens when you put in the negative 1. Again, 0 there. And when you put in the negative 1, we've got negative 1 squared, which is 1 take away negative 4. And again, I would probably write that out. I've done it a wee bit quicker here, but positive 1 take away negative 4 is like 1 add 4, which makes you 5. And then you would draw it out and put in your axis of symmetry and so on. Okay, I'm going to go over 2 more. This is part D in question 4. And the wee bit tricky about this is because you've got a takeaway in front of the x squared. Now we looked at that before, and it's going to create a different shape. It's going to create a kind of unhappy face, a sad face. So a kind of parabola going right the way up and back down the other side because of the negative x squared. So when we put the numbers in, over here we look at it and it's between minus 3 and positive 3. So if I put in the minus 3 first, then I've got 4 take away. I don't know what's happened with this, but we'll try and get it back to, yeah, that'll do. So 4 take away negative 3 squared. Now I would do this bit first, the negative 3 squared, and get 9. So it's basically 4 take away 9, and you've got minus 5, and write your coordinate. With the negative 2, do the same thing. It's 4 take away, and do this bit first. Negative 2 squared is 4, so it's 4 take away 4 is 0. I'll just scroll this down a wee bit so we can look at the rest. Negative 1, so we're doing 4 take away negative 1 squared. That's 4 take away 1, which is 3. And then 4 take away 0, which is 4. And then the positive ones are a wee bit easier to do. Okay, so I've got all my coordinates there written out. Now it's a case of drawing it. So notice this time that I've got a maximum turning point, if you like. It goes up like this, hits the middle and back down the other side. So the root at minus 2, 0, your other root at 2, 0, axis symmetry line looks like right in the middle, so that will be x equals 0 again. There we are. Okay, last one we're going to look at is 4c, just a slightly longer quadratic. There's 2 places for the x to go into, and then you've got a takeaway 6 as well. We have to go from minus 4 to 3, or 3 to minus 4, whichever way you choose. Let's look at the 3 first. So you're putting in the 3 here and there, and then taking away the 6. Now you can take your time with this. 3 squared is 9, plus 3, 12, and then take away 6 is 6. I'll scroll down till we get to the negative ones. We've got quite a few of them to do. So we'll put in negative 1. So we've got negative 1 squared plus negative 1 take away 6. So I would do this bit first. So that's 1. Add negative 1 is just 0. Then take away 6. You get minus 6. Let's look at minus 2. So we've got minus 2 squared, which is 4. Add negative 2 gets you to 2. And then you take away the 6 and you get minus 4. And then you can carry on from there and finish it in your own time. Okay, hopefully this helps. If you go back and try the exercise, try and complete it, and then I'll see you in the next lesson.